Good evening. Shall we start?
Yes, madam. Oh,
Okay,
yes,
madam.
madam. Okay, madam.
Right. Last day we were talking about the difference between guidance and counseling, some definitions of guidance and counseling. Already I have shared, right? Last one. And then we discussed characteristics of guidance and again functions, right? Of functions and features of guidance and counseling both together, and then characteristics of guidance. I think I have stopped here to start characteristics of counseling, right? Am I correct? We have to start from here. Is that so? Can't you all remember? It's okay. We
We
will
have
start.
done this part also, madam.
So
Isn't it?
scope we have to start. No, we have to start scope of the this one. No, scope of guidance and counseling. Right? Need so we did. No, I don't think so. We have to start from here then. No, scope of guidance and counseling. What do you mean by scope? Scope is the range, right? How far it is spreading out, right? What are the things we cover through a concept, right? Here also we are talking about the aspects, range, the things we cover through this concept, guidance and counseling, right? So that means the range that how can we use this in which aspects, all those things included in scope, right? Scope, it's like in Sinhala we call parasya, right? එච්චර පරාසයකට පැතිරිලාද කියන එක වගේ, right? So this is a broad thing, okay? Broad thing. So it has a vast scope. If we take it as it's covering issues, right? For which things we use guidance and counseling for our personal problems, right? To solve our educational problems, and also social problems, emotional problems, even physical problems. We give health guidance for physical diseases and all, physical problems. Not only that, even we give guidance in vocational and occupational needs, even for career advancement. Other than those problems, just for development of individuals, development again we can categorize as physical development and physical well-being, social development, social well-being, psychological development, psychological well-being, right? All the types of development, emotional development, cognitive development, also we can take spiritual development. Every aspect of development we can take, and in each and every aspect we need guidance and counseling, right? Just think about students in your school, right? So they may face lots of things in their developmental stages. Just take adolescent stage. In adolescent stage, they have lots of problems. They have to face lots of changes, right? They may face social problems, psychological problems, emotional problems, because their development in every aspect happens rapidly in this period, in their adolescent youth period, right? In that cases, in that stages, they need specific guidance and counseling, right? We do these things just through our curriculum, right? Formally, we do it, even informally through different things like extracurricular activities, clubs, societies. We teach them how to spend their leisure time, how to have good interpersonal relationships, making decisions, problem solving, how to face these challenges in this age. All these things we teach informally too. Other than that, sometimes we have to give them kind of proper guidance and proper counseling when they are facing specific problems due to this age, due to these differences, changes in this stage, right? So likewise, in different fields, in different aspects, we have to give guidance, use this guidance and counseling concept, right? Especially when we talk about vocational guidance, right? We will discuss vocational guidance later separately, but as the scope, vocational guidance needed for children from their childhood to show their career path, to identify their talents, to identify their capacities, desires, interests, based on that to develop their skills and attitudes or knowledge toward their careers, to select subject streams related to their future ambitions. Other than that, for adults, when they are in their workplaces, they face lots of problems in their working days. At that time also people need vocational guidance, right? To adjust with new working places, to make good interpersonal relationships, to handle new work, to develop their professional skills more. Even as a teacher, when you recruited as a teacher, after you recruited as teacher also, you need kind of professional development. We call that in-service teacher education, continuous teacher education, professional development. You go for different seminars, workshops, conferences. Continuously you learn, update yourself. You need guidance and counseling to face challenges, to adjust with new places, right? Not not only not only that, in guidance and counseling, there is another thing, right? In vocational guidance, there is another thing. When we are in a working place or job, right? If we feel that we want to change the vocation, at that moment also we need guidance and counseling. Sometimes people hesitate to change jobs, right? People stress out with their job, with workload, burn out with the workload, stress out with the people around them in the working place, right? Sometimes they don't get expected salaries, allowances, and facilities. Then they get stressed out. In those situations, to overcome these things, either to stay there with toleration or to change their jobs when they need, people need guidance and counseling, right? Sometimes we see some incidents, people, some individuals committed suicide due to workload, due to burnout, due to problems in workplaces, right? If we can direct those kind of people, if people understand that when they need guidance and counseling, right, we can avoid these situations, right? People can avoid these things, right? Whenever they get proper guidance and counseling in their life situations, difficult situations, right? Most of the problems, mental health issues, suicide issues, even family problems, we can avoid. through guidance and counseling, through proper guidance and counseling, right? That is also so vocational guidance, personal guidance, even in marital problems, everywhere we can see lots of problems in families, maybe domestic violence, right? Maybe financial problems, maybe health problems, maybe their own emotional problems, relationship problems, right? Problems among the people around their marriage life, maybe in laws, maybe relatives, friends. Likewise, when people face problems in their marriage lives, family lives, maybe in parenting, right? About children's problem, likewise, lots of problems will be there. So, in those occasions, also, we should get guidance and counseling. So, guidance and counseling should be everywhere. It should be very intensive and careful process to handle those kind of problems, not just do like without any qualifications, without any experience, right? Then the problem can be worse, as we discussed last day too, right? However, so you can see scope as the scope in educational problems, in personal problems, marital problems, social problems, emotional problems, physical problems, right? And also vocational side, even in vocational, we can again categorize like selecting vocations, adjustment in vocations, changing in vocations, right? Professional development, career advancement. Other than that, holistic development, all round development of individuals in each and every stage in life, right? Other than that, even situational problems happens in different situations which we cannot pretend earlier, right? So these, in all these occasions, we need guidance and counseling. So we can say guidance and counseling concept applying each and every aspect and each and every stage in our life, right? Right. Now, under this scope, right, again, like purposes, functions, but under this scope, how can we explain this need of guidance and counseling, right, in different domains? Let's see, right? One second. Right? Needs for personal and social domain, already I explained in personal development, like personality development from childhood, we need guidance and counseling, right? In social development, if we find like different kind of children are there in schools everywhere, right? So as parents also sometimes we feel yes. Uh, our child needs kind of counseling guidance for his or her development, right? Likewise, social development, sometimes you can take as an example, there are in classes, there are children, very introvert children, right, who don't talk, who don't make interpersonal relationships with peers, who don't play, who don't present anything, who don't even talk, right? Then yes, social development we need. Other than that, even we can find extraordinary like special children, not only syndromes, but with small personality disorders, right? So, other than that, there are children with ADHD, right? Small difficulties in life, with learning difficulties. So, those kind of children also, for those kind of children, we can sometimes, to some extent, to some level, we can develop them, change them, adjust them, right? And also to adapt in different stages of development already I discussed, taking one example from adolescent, right? In adolescent, in childhood, youth, in early childhood, middle childhood, later childhood, adolescent, in every and each stage, teenage. We can classify these stages in different ways, right? So, however, in every stage, right, children have to adapt, right, with their development, with their new features, new characteristics, new changes, right? For those things also, they need guidance and counseling. Offering art of better living, yes. Although we feel that all the things are okay, sometimes through guidance and counseling, we can change some situations, we can develop ourselves, we can motivate ourselves, right? Just think we just live and like if we want to improve our economical status, if we want to do our further education, then we need kind of motivation, right? So for better living also we can get this guidance and counseling to change our lives. Proper use of leisure time, as I told you earlier too, in adolescent, taking adolescent, right? So through good hobbies, sports, aesthetic activities, right? Through different like having pets, flowering, doing handcrafts, simple things. People can spend their time, leisure time, happily. Students, one of your mic is unmuted. I think Kanchana's. Kanchana, you have to mute your mic because I can't do. Admin, I'm not an admin. I will request admin next day, right? I forgot to ask about that. How can we let her know? And she didn't hear, no? Kanchana, your mic is unmuted. Okay, right? So, yes, leisure time, leisure time. Actually, this although it feels like a very small thing, this proper using of leisure time is a very big thing, very important thing in our lives, right? People, children who don't know to spend their leisure time properly, nicely, they may get distracted in their lives. They may addict to different wrong things, sometimes antisocial behaviors, drug addictions, unwanted affairs, unwanted pregnancies, even, right? So, for better living and better leisure time spending, right? If we can give guidance and counseling, especially for children, they will use to those things in their later life too, right? And then holistic personality development, I explained, all round development in each and every aspect in life, each and every aspect of development, right? Physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological, each and every aspect. And best use of available opportunities. You know, we can find lots of opportunities, we can see lots of opportunities, but we don't know how to use the best. Just think about children when they select their subject streams, they get confused. When they select their future career pathways, they get confused. When they choose their university, universities or university subjects, again they get confused. Not only that, even finding jobs, even in finding partners, even in selecting best place to live. All the things, in all the things, we need kind of decision making, right, to get best opportunity, right? When we find scholarships, even education, for education we find good places, institutions. Likewise, in all these occasions, if we can get proper advices, right, proper guidance and direction, then it will be more effective. So that is also another place that we need guidance and counsel, right? And motivates for effective utilization and development of self, as we discussed in each and everything, right? Utilization and development of self, ourselves, right? First of all, we have to recognize ourselves, we have to realize our talents, capacities, and all. Then we should understand how to progress ourselves. Likewise, for that also, if we don't understand, usually children need this kind of motivation and support for this, right? That is also we can do through guidance and counseling. In educational and professional domain, still we are in the scope of guidance and counseling, right? So already I discussed here, but I'm just going through again in detail in personal and social domain, and then educational and professional domain, for academic growth, development as students as well as adults. Now also you have chosen something for your further development, further growth academically, right? In those things you need guidance, counseling to choose the correct thing, best thing. Help in vocational and professional maturity, as I discussed already, right? Even after we recruited in any vocation, there also we have to have adjustments and changes and maturity to work with others. Facilitate an individual in the right education and profession. Yes, we discussed offer help to handle educational and professional situations. Yes, in everywhere we have to handle situations, handle problems, and face challenges. Right? In those occasions also, we need we may need guidance and counseling. Help in making proper career choices, we discussed, helps to minimize indiscipline. Yes, as teachers, mostly you face this problem, indiscipline in your classroom, in your school, as principals, in your organizations, as administrators. So for these things, you need to give guidance and counseling, right? Even you need guidance and counseling to handle these kind of problems, right? Right. So guidance and counseling we can categorize in different ways. Basically, adjustmental, developmental, and orientation. All those three things we do together sometimes. Sometimes only adjustmental orientation, only adjustmental developmental, or developmental orientation. Like in different ways we do guidance and counseling. Right here, one classification including three main domains: adjustmental, developmental, orientation. What is developmental? As we discussed, in each and every stage in life, we have to develop, right, in different aspects. Adjustmental, in different occasions we have to adjust to new situations, adjust to new workplaces, adjust to new educations, adjust to new contexts, new cultures. Adjustmental, right, adapting to changes, making your own changes to adjust with the context value, right? We need guidance and counseling. For development, for adjustment, and orientation, when we initiate something, when we start something, we need to know about that new culture, new context. After that, only we can adjust. So, that is orientation. We do orientation programs when people start new jobs, when people go to new educational field. for students when they come from one school to another, when they come from primary to secondary, secondary to upper secondary. Like in universities, we do orientations, right? Through orientation period, we support them to adjust to new situation, right? Understand the situation, familiarize with the new culture, right? So likewise, we can use guidance and counseling in these different domains: developmental, orientation, and adjustmental. And here are some types or areas of guidance service, as we discussed here, right? Educational, professional, personal, social domains, we need guidance and counseling. Based on that, we can categorize as types: personal guidance, social guidance, educational guidance, vocational guidance, health guidance, a vocational guidance, right? All these things we already discussed: personal guidance for personal problems, social guidance for social situations and social problems, educational guidance related to educational problems, vocational guidance in selecting and adjusting to a vocation, health guidance for prevention as well as for treatments. In medical sector, health sector, we do this kind of guidance, right? Just think about small awareness programs related to dengue, COVID-19. They are also health guidance, right? Whenever need like specific counseling or guidance, when having like crucial disease, right? When having non-communicable diseases like cancers, right? We need health guidance, what to do. Even for family members, we need that health guidance. Avocational guidance, as we discussed in your leisure time, how do you use your leisure time effectively, right? Likewise, based on the function, based on the intention of guidance or counseling, we can categorize them to different types. Even we can say they are different types of guidance services: social guidance service, educational guidance service. Likewise, we can categorize. Okay. Now we came to understand different counseling services. In that counseling services, there are some basic components, right? Elements, components, right? These are like the things or steps that we have to include in guidance or counseling services. Look at these different categories, different components. In any guidance or counseling service, we need an organizational setup. Organizational setup, right? Including kind of structure, including the members in counseling committees, kind of organizational setup, right? This setup physically conduct programs, to physically establish this organizational setup, we need a counseling center, right? Inside this setup, we have counseling committee, including members and administrators, like maybe the chairperson is counselor of the institution or organization, including like several people, several individuals. There should be a counseling committee to make decisions and all. And tools for counseling services, right? I'm explaining all these things. Tools for counseling services, whatever we need to identify different people's problems. For that, we have to do tests. Sometimes we use non-test method tools, right? First of all, there should be a requirement of counseling service in any institute. First of all, we have to identify the requirement. Why do we need a counseling service? What are the purposes in that organization? No, uh, organization or institution, right? So basically, this organizational setup can be vary from one institution to another, one organization to another, one context to another, right? For schools, different organizational setup. For universities, different. For office, different, right? Basically this is like common way, but these things can be very different from one country to another, right? At universities, basically we have like counselor, deans are assisted by head of departments in psychological issues, educational issues. If we need like more guidance, right, then we can direct to counseling officer. Usually when we have like students with health issue, mental health issue problems, children who stress out, depression, lots of problems are there in universities, right? So we can direct them to the counseling officer. Other than that, deans and HODs in departments look after the like counseling guidance for general things like for exams, about coursework, about selecting optional subjects, about events, general things. But when we have specific problem, specific mental health problem, or specific kind of depression or stress, then we have to direct the students to counseling officer. So that is basic organizational setup in universities, right? Likewise, we can say different ways, different in different universities. It can be again different. In schools, in colleges, based on the number of students, right? Number of counseling officer, number of counseling officers, qualifications of the counseling officer can be varied, right? So basically, this is given for one context, right? No need to memorize because it can be vary from one context to another, right? Basically, we take the number of students and based on that, we take counselors, help, and when we select counselor, we consider the qualifications based on the number of students, right? Affiliated colleges, again, it is different, right? If we have like more emphasis on vocations, right? So also based on the number of students, we can recruit counselors. So that is the organizational setup. Like based on the setup, based on the context, how do we organize our counseling, right? Then counseling center, right, in universities, schools, we can see a physical place called counseling center or counseling unit, right? There should be a trained professional counseling officer. Basically, we expect at least psychology, counseling degree, right? It's better to have master's degree in psychology and counseling. PhD is the best, right? However, we consider about the experience, right? So here in counseling center, right, we have to think about lots of things, consider lots of things. Here in counseling center, we register students, we conduct and organize orientation sessions for students. We give educational and vocational counseling. Whenever needed, we give personal adjustment counseling. We give physical and psychological services, remedial services. Remedial services are like when someone need treatment, need some educational, special educational plan, when someone need special counseling. So we have to provide that remedial services. And also residence and food services whenever needed based on the counseling organization and institutions needs, right? Activities, programs definitely have to organize by counseling center, counseling unit. So counseling center has a big responsibility in any institution or organization. Okay, another component, counseling committee. So we are talking about these components of counseling services. These are the things that we have to establish, that we have to include in counseling services. Organizational setup, counseling center, and then counseling committee. Committee is like including people, members, right? To maintain policies, rules, regulations, to discuss these things, right? And organize programs, to make coordinate between a community and the institution, right? Plan different things, to properly coordinate each and everything. One person cannot do that. That's why we need a counseling committee to make decisions, right? To get support from different agencies, to face lots of challenges, like children's, students' problems. Sometimes parents also come, right? They also involved in problems. So with one person, we can't handle those things. That's why we need members committee, as counseling committee, to discuss, to make decisions, to for policy making and all, right? So when we take decisions, when we apply suggestions or recommendations, right? So this committee can discuss and approve, also can get necessary recommendations from appropriate bodies, authorities too, right? So that's how counseling committee works. And requirement for organizational of counseling service. And first thing, actually requirement of counseling service, right? Let's see. What are the requirements? First of all, in any counseling service, any counseling center, these things we have to establish, right? Student data bank, right? That's why when we enroll a student in a school or a university, we collect all the data from counseling service, counseling center, all the data, right? Because to find internships, for placements, to find jobs for them, especially in universities, we need students' data, right? General data, their former qualifications, present studies, experiences, their ambitions, desires, interests, their capacities, all these things should be included in students' data. General data like their birthdays, names, um, living areas, family backgrounds, economical status, all these things, right? And educational and vocational information services should be there in counseling center, because when we have vocational informations, then only we can match them with students' data and find them jobs, internships, right? Even if we have educational information service, right, we can direct our students to necessary educational, further educational units, further educational opportunities, right? And also programs for integrating community services with guidance services. Always through counseling service, we have to integrate with community through different programs, right? As examples, when we do some awareness programs, we involve the community too. Sometimes we do Ramadana campaigns with community, right? Inside the school or institution, we do some workshops, seminars, conferences, including community, right? Likewise. Also, educational programs for teachers, counselors, and other personnels to provide knowledge of current trends in guidance. That is also important thing that we have to conduct through guidance and counseling services, right? If we don't get updated, right, we can't go with new generations. Therefore, we always have to be updated through educational programs, teachers, counselors, and all the other peoples related to this guidance programs. And budgetary provisions is also another requirement, because for all these things, organize events and programs, and for all these things we need budget. That is also important requirement in counseling service. Then when it comes to tools, see, we are talking about components of counseling services, right? Now I discussed organizational setup, requirements, counseling center, and counseling committee. Now we are talking about tools for counseling services. What are the tools? There are two types of tools, right? So tools means sometimes we use tool term for techniques, for methods, right? In counseling process also we need to use some methods to identify problems of individuals who come for counseling, right? This thing, if the child has different personality, then we have to check his personality. For that, we use personality test, right? When we want to give a place, like give different positions or placements in a course, right? We have to do aptitude test, right? Likewise, we have to use standardized test methods to determine, to identify children's mentality, their physical status, emotional status, personalities. Even to understand their interest, we have to conduct some tests. We call them standardized tests, right? We will discuss about different standardized tests which we use in identifying people, right? Their personality or their desires or their talents or whatever. To identify them, we have to use standardized tests. We call them standardized tools, standardized techniques, standardized tests, right? Different types of standardized tests are there, like personality tests, lots of types of aptitude tests and personality tests, likewise different tests. That is one type of tools. Another type is non-standardized test. That means we don't use accepted standardized tests. Rather than that, we use like observations, interviews to identify children's problems or their personality traits. By observing a child's behavior, we can do that. That is a non-standardized test. By asking questions from the child or from the parents or from peers, then also we can identify child's problems or personality traits. They are non-standardized tests. However, in counseling service, we have to use these both types of tests, standardized test and non-standardized test. These two things are different lessons. I will do them standardized test separately and non-standardized test again separately. Right here, just I have included standardized tools. As test, we use intelligence test, achievement test, aptitude test, interest test, personality test. We will do later, but I'll just tell you, right? Because we have to, yeah. No, we will do this in detail, but intelligence test, to identify their different intelligence types. Achievement test, to identify their achievement levels. Aptitude test, even again to identify their levels to give placements. Interest test, identify their interest, desires. Personality test, different personalities are there, understand to understand their personalities. Non-standardized test examples, I told you interviews, I told you observations. Other than that, we can use autobiography. That means like diaries written by themselves about them, anecdotal records for long time period. We record their behaviors, questionnaire. We can ask questions from parents or uh, from the students themselves or from peers. Likewise, interview I told, observation, we observe their behavior for a long time period. Cumulative records are also again for a long time duration. We collect data about the person. Case studies, we specifically, deeply study about the child or group of children or one case, right? Sociometric techniques are we go to the relevant community or context and we use different techniques to collect data about that person or situation. Rating scales are, through rating scale, we get rating, right? Like, rating scales are always in surveys we use, like getting people's idea about something, getting their rate about something, right? අපි අර දෙන්නේ satisfied, not satisfied කියා දෙන්නේ, right? Scale එකේ like that. And collection of information. Information we can collect through different ways, right? Just go to the relevant place, right? Being there, like a participant of that community, we can collect information. Likewise, we can use different non-standardized tools too, right? So we discussed basic components of counseling services, right? Right. Now let's see role of the counselor. Under that, I'm going to explain you counselor's qualities, right? How to prepare as a counselor, characteristics and qualities of good counselor. We can categorize them and learn, right? So that is what I'm going to explain. After that, we have to do counseling process, right? Today, I'm trying to cover all these things, counseling process, and then we can finish this, right? First one. All right, now let's see. This is easy part. Easy part about counselor, but you have to like importantly know about these things because although you are not playing the role of counselor officially as teachers, as principals, most of the time you have to play this role, right? Not all the time. Sometimes, if the problem is crucial mental health issue, even for depression, you don't have to handle those problems alone without the help of qualified counselor, right? Although you just learn about these things, it's not a qualification, right? However, as a teacher, as a principal, an educator, we have to have kind of idea about counseling, so you can be like from your career as a teacher, you are already a counselor, right? Officially not, but already a counselor all the time. For each and every problem in your children, you have to give guidance and counseling, right? That is not official, but you have, therefore you have to know this role of the counselor, right? Basically, other thing that as a teacher, if you know the role of the counselor, then you can see, you can observe whether your school counselor complete these roles, right? Whether they conduct necessary programs, whether they give support to children, you can check. As a principal also, you can check that. On the other hand, if you like, you can complete some other qualifications and you can become a counselor, right? So let's see what is the role of the counselor then. Lots of things are there. Arrange orientation programs for the support staff to enlist their cooperation. Always in an organization, institutions, right? From the counseling center by the counselor, orientation programs should be arranged. If you can see, if you can remember, right, in each and every orientation program, counselor is there, right? Counselor also do a speech, organize all the things, because it is a role, it is a responsibility of the counselor, preparing newcomers to the new situation. And then the second one, prepare an up-to-date list of resources, information, referral and energy available to him. Right? Everything in the counseling service, counseling center, have to be updated. All the resources, all the information, all the referrals. Resources means, right? Maybe materials, written materials, information means students' information, information about industries, information about uh, expertise, professionals related to counseling. Referral again, whenever we need to say direct a child who need medical help, we have to send to the proper place. For that, we need to keep referrals, right? All these things should be updated, not all outdated things. We have to have updated information, right? And organize the guidance committee. In components we discussed, there should be a guidance committee including members, right? Maybe members in school, principal, one vice principal, some sectional heads and parents. Likewise, however, this organizing thing should be done by the counselor. Set up an educational and occupational information center. All the information related to education and occupation should be there, right? Have to be in inventories, logs, right? Display the information collected in an attractive way, not only just collecting information. If you have seen posters, handbills, attractive things around counseling center to see by others, seen by others, right? That is the no usual way that they spread information, right? Disseminate information through educational and career talks, group discussion, and so on. Time to time, counselor has to prepare, arrange different ways to give information. Maybe small career talks, right? Small discussions, career corners, right? Time to time, different things have to be organized to give information to students. Arrange talks by experts from different fields. Time to time in universities, schools, there may be motivational speeches, right? Career talks, sometimes some demonstrations about mock interviews. Likewise, arranging different things. Organize career days, career weeks, career conferences, parents' day, and so on. Likewise, different things related to vocational guidance, related to uh, personal guidance, social guidance. They have to arrange all these things, right? And also educate students regarding proper study habits and assist them in their development. Obviously, right? because educational guidance is a very important part in it. So they have to, counselor has to educate students about study habits, especially when they are close to some exams, right? From the counseling unit, they organize this type of things, giving motivation, giving advices, teaching study habits, right? Helping them to develop and arrange individual discussions with students whenever they need, right? Sometimes not just focusing whole group of children. For some students, whenever we feel as the counselor, they need kind of advisors or guidance, then have to arrange them individual discussions. Sometimes even with parents, if you see kind of misbehavior, kind of addiction, kind of mental health issue, kind of depression or stress, then you have to even talk with parents of that particular students, right? Not only for this kind of things, even for, give me 1 second, right? I'm getting a call. Meanwhile, I looked at the chat too. Someone has asked what is anecdotal records. Anecdotal records means like for some time duration, we keep records about someone or some situation or some problem, right? Like writing a log, writing a journal or a diary, we keep records, anecdotal records for time duration. Even cumulative records are the same, but cumulative records are like frequently we keep records for a long time period, right? So through these kind of records and journals or diaries and log notes, and, right, we can identify some person's behavior problems using that logs, using that notes and records, right? Like in schools, you use reflective journals. They are also like that. And someone has requested for past papers questions. Yes, I will give you some model questions, and if you have time within these 8 days, we will discuss them, right? However, I will give you model questions for your paper. Did you get the PPT, last PPT? I gave it, and also I wanted to give the second one, but I forgot. Today I will send to the university that second one too. Then you can come with your notes if you want. You can even take a print out before you come to the lecture, right? I will send it, right? Like whatever I have, whatever I'm going to do, I will give you time to time. Like this week, I will give you 2, 3. Likewise, I will give, right? But you have to refer the module too, right? Refer that too. But I have simplified and I have included necessary things in my PPTs. Not only the module, like in tertiary education, in university education, you have to refer lots of things. Whatever you like to read, whatever you want to elaborate your knowledge related to this subject, you can read. You can just easily find references from any source online, right? Right. So we were talking about the role of the counselor, individual discussions, then arrange visit to place of work, industries, business, office, higher education institutions, important educational places. That means like our students need to be familiar with their future careers. Even they will have to get trainings, right? Industry internship. For that we have to arrange visit to see those places, right? Keeping rapport with the owners of these industries or organizations, right? We have to keep rapport, as well as we have to find places for our students internships and future careers. Not only for that, even for trainings, right? Train our students for technical uh, things and skills, right? And maintain an active relationship with schools, colleges, universities, yes. Right, that is important because we have to send our students to those places. Maintain an active liaison with clubs like club, Rotary Club, in schools, in universities, we have this kind of clubs, right? Isaac, very like in the, very advanced clubs, international clubs too, right? And also university level clubs and island wide clubs. So to having connections with these societies clubs, counselor can give opportunities to our students. Even our students should be promoted to have membership of those clubs through them, through those things, through social work, through having membership of clubs and societies. Students can get experience as well as get opportunities. And refer serious mental cases to clinical psychologist or psychiatrist. Definitely, serious cases cannot be handled by the counselor. So you have to refer. That's why you should know references. You should know the places, people, expertise, and professionals needed to get support and help in those cases, right? So this referral is also another role of the counselor. And maintaining complete secrecy, that is very important when we talk about the uh, qualities of counselor. I will tell you more. Secrecy, counselor is very responsible about this secrecy because the counselees, clients believe, trust in counselor and tell all the things, so have to maintain that secrecy. Like, in schools, whenever we don't have uh, licensed counselors, trained counselors, teachers sometimes do wrong things, right? When they know something as their guidance or counseling teacher, just having that position without qualifications, without proper training and attitudes, right? When children tell their problems, they talk them sometimes without any wrong idea, but it is wrong, right? How to keep secrecy even though the child is small one, child is vulnerable, you have to keep the secrecy, right? And so some teachers talk about that, discuss about that in the staff room. Then next day, all class get to know about that. Teachers sometimes publicly talk about that even in the classroom after having discussion in the staff room with the counselor, right? Sometimes there are occasions that counselor has to get advices and support from other teachers. At that time also counselor should tell that, talk about that secrecy, right? How to be very careful about the facts and information given by the child, not to give to any other one. In some instances, to get help, we need to tell, but at that time also you have to keep secrecy with that relevant person, right? How to discuss and keep that secret, right? Administer psychological tests as we discussed earlier. As components, I told you tools are there, psychological tests are there. So as the counselor, you have to administer them. You have to conduct them, right? Provide counseling services to students. Obviously, that is the main purpose. Help in the students' placements, as I always tell. Placements are there in internship, giving the proper place for children in internships, in job opportunities, even in education, right? In classes also there are placements, right? Sometimes for English courses we have to do placements likewise based on their level and all. Take up research project in relating to the field of educational, vocational, personal and social guidance in colleges. Yes, this is very important. As the counselor, you have to do lots of research, starting from small surveys, getting feedback from others about your work. You have to do research as the counselor to develop counseling in your as the counselor in your professionalism, as well as for as a service to guidance and counseling uh, field. Right. Let's see qualities of a good counselor now. Give me 1 second. Right. Let's see what are the qualities, right? Qualities of a counselor. Right. This in this slide you can see based on the good counselor term, right? Good counselor, taking all the letters from these two words. There are qualities here explained, right? That means there are lots of qualities that have to maintain, that have to inculcate in a counselor, right? Good technical knowledge, right? Um, why do we need technical knowledge in counseling? We have to handle test, standardized test. Even in unstandardized tools, we need technical knowledge, right? Obtaining appropriate information from the patient, that is very important and very hard part. Sometimes when we, although we conduct several sessions with the counselee, we can't get the appropriate information. So obtaining this appropriate information is a skill actually, right? When the patient distracting, when the patient telling unnecessary things, however, counselor should know how to get the appropriate information, right? That is also a quality. Objectively answering questions. For that, we can objectively answer questions. while the counselor tells something not relevant, right? Objectively, we can change the track. We can go to the correct track, direct the counselor to the correct track, and ask the necessary questions. For that, it is good to having some structured questions, right? All the time we can't go through that structure, but to get relevant answer, appropriate answer, we can ask questions objectively, right? Objectively means for that, for particular counseling session, we can make some proper definite questions related to the problem, right? And also then demonstrating professionalism, to get the correct answers, to get appropriate information, right? We have to have kind of rapport with the counseling to make him comfortable. We have to have friendly manner of maintaining conversations. However, we have to demonstrate professionalism, right? It's not like a friendship, it's not like a relationship between counselor and counselee. There should not be any relationship personally, right? Always have to keep it professional conversation, right? For that, you have to demonstrate your professionalism while you are asking questions, even while you are having kind of friendliness, patience, right? Uh, Even though you talk very friendly with the counselor, you have to keep your professionalism. So this is also another good quality that you have to maintain as in your teaching role too, right? As a teacher also, you have to maintain good relationships with your students, being friendly but being professional, right? Then confidentiality maintenance, as I told you, confidentiality is very important. Someone tells you something for professional advices, for support to their problem solving, to get support to make a decision, right? It can be very confident, very secret problem, very personal thing, very emotional thing. So, as the counselor, you have to keep that trust, keeping confidentiality. And as a counselor, you have to be a good observant. I told you we have to use non-test methods. Under non-test methods of determine, identify a client, right, in counseling, we have to use observations. Observation is not just looking at something or someone. It should be systematic. It should be methodical. If you are a good observer, you can understand lots of things. While talking to your client, you can understand things through his or her facial expressions, through his body language, through his gestures, even from a small smile, sadness, right? All through all these things, when you observe very well, you can understand lots of things. So, counselor should be a good observant, unbiased. Unbiased. Unbiased means sometimes we bias with our own perceptions, own opinions. Sometimes with our perspectives related to our culture or religion or our social context. But as a counselor, you can't be biased like that. You have to think objectively, not subjectively, right, about the problem and you have to look at the client unbiasedly, right? Just think client's problem, right, maybe related with your own personal experience or something. But you can't be biased according to your experience, your situation, right? In any aspect, you can't be biased. Unbiasedly, you have to think about real problem and real situation realistically, right? And non-judgmental. That is the biggest problem that people face in telling their problems to someone else, right? That's why sometimes people hesitate to meet counselors too, right? We feel like whether the other person who listen to us judge us, right? Judging is something that we should not do, right? First of all, if we judge them through their story, they will be hesitant to tell their stories, right? So basically, when we have a problem, we talk to our friends and used to tell them to our friends, then they judge us, no? After sometimes we feel like, why did we tell this, right? They have judged me, right? It is very unfair to judge me without knowing all the things, right? Likewise. So that's why people have to select a proper counselor, qualified counselor, rather than a friend or relative to tell the problems. Because counselor is trained to not to judge the person. It is a quality of a counselor, not non-judgmental. Then the next one, sensitive to the needs of the patient. Here, needs means starting from physical needs to emotional needs, social needs, all the kind of needs, right? First of all, counselee, the client should be comfortable in the counseling center, right? Sometimes very small things like glass of water, to sit comfortably, a chair, comfortable chair, all right? Comfortable environment with like a fan or AC, right? And whenever they want to be emotional, whenever they want to be crying, that is also like a need, right? At that time, also should give some time, some space to release their emotions. When they need a tissue to wipe up their tears, you have to offer. Likewise, you have to sensitive to their needs, even emotional needs, right? Then when you go through the story of the counseling, then again you have to understand their needs in their story, in their decision, in their problem. What do they need? Right? Empathetic. Empathetic is very important. If you don't understand other person's emotions, you can't become a counselor. Counselor should understand the emotions of the counseling, right? If the counselor is empathetical to the counselee, then only he can help to the problem, to solve the problem, right? And lets the patient make decisions. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Right. From the beginning, I told you, counselor should listen to the counselee, letting the counselee to tell her or his story properly, right, without rushing him, right, without disturbing him, right? Listen carefully. Sometimes, normal people, when we tell something about ourselves, they start to tell their stories without listening to us, right? So our story is somewhere else, then we have to listen to that person's story. That's why we have to go for a counselor without telling here and there to each and everyone about our problems, right? So counselor is trained to listen carefully. Then lets the patient make decisions. When we talk about guidance and counseling definitions, an idea of guidance and counseling, I told you, it is not a process that force the counselor to make decision, right? We make the background, we give the informations and facts, and we try to direct to the correct pathway, but we don't make the decisions as the counselor. We let the patient to make decision. We develop the patient to make the correct decision. That is the important thing in guidance and counseling. Then open-minded. If the counselor is not open-minded, if he thinks in being inside the box, right? Always being in a like limited to restricted to one framework, he cannot understand different people's different problems. He can't look at people's problems in different angles. He can't tolerate different point of views of counselors, clients, right? So first of all, counselors should be open-minded, open to different cultures, different aspects, different viewpoints, different ethnicities, classes, likewise, being open-minded. Respect the rights of the patient. That is also very important. Sometimes, although we are not in a particular culture, if we tell that you don't need to wear this, you don't need to talk like this, no, you can't say like that. They have their own habits, own traditions, customs, values. So you have to respect them. They are like their rights, right? Right. Now, qualities we discussed, preparation of counselor, right? For preparation, again, I'm talking about the characteristics and good qualities of a counselor, which we have done already. We will skip and we just go through, right? So, to have all these qualities, how can they get all these qualities? How can we develop all these qualities in a counselor? Through training. Through training, that this is also a profession which needed proper professional development training, right? So for that we can do it through education, through experience, right? So as education, that's why we look for master's or bachelor's degree in teaching and education, right? Training in behavioral science, like psychology, right? Experience also should be. Now there is a debate like how can someone started without experience, but they have to just have internships and more trainings under another matured counselor. However, without experience they can't work in a institution, right? They may make wrong decisions if they don't have proper experiences. That's why. Therefore, we basically expect at least 2 years of counseling experience and 3 6 months of supervised counseling experience. Under a supervisor, they have to have kind of training, right? Also, personal fitness and attributes are important of a counselor, right? Like always being positive. If the counselor is depressed, stressed out, and negative, then can people who come to counselor get delightful and be happy? Cannot. Therefore, the counselor should be delightful, should be happy, should be happy always, positive always, interest in her or his work always. Also physically also should be fit, right? If he's sick, he can't be happy, he can't be positive, right? So how to have this personal fitness and attributes too, right? So as a counselor, to have all these good qualities, he or she has to have a good educational background, enough experience, and personal fitness and attributes. When it comes to characteristics or qualities of a counselor, we can again classify them as personal characteristics, right? Interpersonal relationships, personal adjustment, scholastic potentialities, right? Health and personal appearance, leadership skills, philosophy of life, professional dedications. Likewise, we can explain their characteristics in different through different aspects, right? One second. Right? Uh, Personal characteristics are having basic human qualities. We know that we categorize people as good and bad, basically, right? If the person is having good basic human qualities like patience, like helping others, they definitely those kind of qualities needed for a counselor. Person with cultural values and awareness, as I told you, diverse people, diverse counselees, clients can be come to the counselor. So we have to have cultural sense, cultural awareness, not to discriminate other people, and also to appreciate different cultures, right? If we insult some culture, if we ignore some tradition values, right, that people will not trust in you, right? So that is also another personal characteristic. Having deep interest in helping people, as I told you. Patient listen to others. If you are not patient to listen and if you just try to finish the conversation quickly, counseling will be uncomfortable to tell all the things. Should be sensitive to others' attitudes and reactions. Yes, I told you that. Sensitive to their attitudes as well as reaction while looking at facial expressions can get some idea about the problem. Capability for being trusted by others, most importantly. If the counselor is not trusted in you, you can't get the information. Should have respect for the personal autonomy of the patient. Yeah, that's what we are talking about counseling and guidance as a concept, right? You have to make the patient independent, right? That's what we tell personal autonomy of the patient, right? If you don't respect their personal autonomy, you always try to give your opinion, direct them to your solution. But counseling and guidance is not a concept like that, right? Personal autonomy is important. We have to develop their independency to make the decision. That is personal autonomy. Should be tolerate and accept the patient point of view. That is also again related with the previous one. If you can't tolerate, if you can't accept patient's point of view, you may try to give your opinion, your solution, your decision, right? It is not the real concept of counseling. Interpersonal relationships are important because here you make a interpersonal relationship with the counseling. So you have to have friendly nature, sympathetic understanding, sincerity, trustworthiness. That means tactfulness. You have to be tactful to get the information, to talk to the some people who very introvert, depressed. Patience, to listen to them, to understand them, to give autonomy to them, to get the idea, to make the process dynamic, and confidentiality maintenance, attentive listener, show concern. While you are listening to your patient, you have to be concerned, right? Then only they motivate to tell you, to talk you, right? Then person to get to make good interpersonal relationships, all these qualities should be there, right? That's why it is explained again under interpersonal relationships, say although the same qualities. Personal adjustments, your own counselors on personal adjustments. Maintaining emotional stability. If the counselor is very emotional and cannot maintain his emotional stability, he can't listen to sad stories. Even he may get upset after listening to some very emotional things, very crucial things, right? So you have to adjust yourself with emotional stability. Emotionally sound and healthy, yeah, that is also related with the same quality. You should be healthy in emotionally, right? Good in emotionally, to control your emotions, to handle your emotions, as well as to help others' emotions. Able to accept criticism, yes, whenever you give your opinion, sometimes the client may criticize you. If you are a teacher, counselor, right, your students parents may criticize you, maybe about your decision. Sometimes you may make like decisions related to selecting a professional support, educational plans. In those things, sometimes there may be mistakes, or sometimes they misunderstand and give criticisms, bad comments. So you have to accept them, to make your own problems sometimes, to develop yourself sometimes, right? Knowledge of self, you have to understand yourself, your capabilities. How can you handle problems? How can you use your personality to handle others? Patience, obviously. Personal adjustments, your own qualities that you have to adjust in yourself. Then scholastic potentialities, that is related with your qualifications, education, and knowledge. You have to have relevant knowledge related to the aspects you address. Always should be motivated and committed to your work. Aware about policies, beliefs, misconceptions, rumors in community, because always you face lots of challenges with your counsel's problems. Related to them, you have to know about community things, even policies and beliefs. Possess common sense, right? Quickly understanding something through small expression, common sense, good judgment, right? Understand the problem easily, right? That is like you, as the counselor, should understand and uh, make your client make the decision, make your client to uh, solve the problem or make decision, right? For that, you have to judge the problem easily. Good judgment is there should be, right? Health and personal appearance, as we discussed earlier too, right? You have to have good health, good physical appearance. Voice should be good because you also have to make conversations with your client, right? Endurance, how you tolerate things, right? That is like all the things related to mental health and physical health. Leadership skills, as a leader, you have to handle the conversation. You have to stimulate, motivate your client. You have to reinforce important information to get all the information. Direct the counselee to way to solve the problem. Directing the counselee to solve the problem is very hard, not easy. Not like just giving the solution. You have to direct the counselee to make the decision or solve the problem. That is a leadership skill. When it comes to philosophy of life, you have to have good character, first of all, integrated personality with different positive character traits, faith in human values, right? You have to have good vision about your life. If the counselor thinks differently, opposed to the cultural context that you live, you can't handle the problems, right? So you have to faith in basic human values and having good character and integrated personality. Professional dedication, enthusiasm, helping relationships, a nice sense of morality, they are also important, right? Right now, we have to do counseling process, right? But I think we can do that next day, right? So when we do all the things together, it will be like confusing. We will do that, and next day I'm doing also different approaches in counseling, right? That will be our main lesson next day. So I will share it with the university, then you may get it, right? Okay. Before we wind up, do you have any questions or do you have to share anything with me related to our lesson?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, Fatima. Tell.
Yeah, will we be getting the recording? Because last lesson we didn't still get the recording.
Uh, you may request from the university. I will also send a message to the coordinator while I'm
Okay.
sending the PPT. So basically, they release the recording and they will share the recording because all the time we record lectures.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other question? Recordings are uploaded in their YT channel usually. Someone has sent that message, you can see, right? So you also check it, right? YouTube channel. Is that YouTube channel? Maybe, right? You check there. Okay, then, if you don't have any other questions, we can wind up. So we discussed yeah, I will share the next class documents. I will send it to, if you want, I can right now share in the chat box. I don't have any other way. And even I will share with the university today. So today how? Okay, I'll share here. Give me 1 second to share. I can share as a file. Last day also I shared like that. No, wait. Second one is I'm going to do approaches. Approaches, approaches in guidance and counseling, right? I think I shared. Just check, right? Okay, then, students. Do you have any other question? Can we wind up?
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much, madam. Good night.
And thank you, madam.